So Bob Thames.
One clarification. Last name is pronounced Thames. It is spelled Thames. So
is it really?
Yeah, it
Thames?
is. But it's Thames like the river in England. Thames.
What? I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, my wife married into that struggle.
Do most people know that, or they just still call it?
It depends on the conversation. If I'm on the phone trying to get business done, it's definitely Thames. I'm like, let's not hold this up. If it's
you call me whatever you want.
It's a personal conversation. I'm going to correct it. But if I'm, like yesterday, I'm on the phone with the doctor's office, and they're like, "Who's calling?" I'm like, "Bob Thames, THAMES." So I've got pride in it for sure, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not
easy.
Using
just be easy. Yeah. Well, my name's Leighton, Leightle.
Yeah,
the same thing. It's like,
get it. Yeah.
I'm like, it's just whatever.
Yeah. My wife went from Stafford to Thames, and Stafford. I mean, that's pretty easy, right? And so now. She's like, do you have to correct people every time? I'm like, yeah, that's the lifelong battle that you're stuck in now.
That is hilarious. Well, last night, my wife, she was like, well, who's going to be on the podcast? And I said, Josh Cox, and then Bob. I said, Bob Thames. And she goes, is he our age? And I was like, no, he's younger. She goes, oh, it sounds like an old person name. So I'm like, was she making fun of you or fun of me?
Yeah,
like, yeah. Well, you're old. I thought he'd be your age.
Yeah,
I'm like, who's getting shaded in here?
Yeah, it went from Robert to Bob when I was about probably 12, 13 years old. I had a teacher, and one of her nieces or nephews, I can't remember the exact circumstance, but they couldn't say their R's. And so they would come into the room and they would, Wobbert. And so finally they were like, just call him Bob. And it just stuck from there. But it definitely feels like an old man name sometimes.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So
what, did you grow up in Shreveport?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Bethany, which is actually where my wife and I moved after that storm came through in June of 23. We moved back out there. So grew up in Bethany. If you heard of Camp Bethany, right around the corner from Camp Bethany.
There every summer for camp.
Yeah,
that's the hottest place on earth. Actually,
hot as hell. Yeah, I did a few years of cutting grass and working in the little kitchen, and just it was a good summer job. It was right around the corner. But grew up out there. Went to Walnut Hill. Mom drove a bus for Huntington High School, which would have been our home school, and she said, we're not going to send you there. So I had an older sister went to Byrd. I had an older brother went to Byrd, and I kind of got, I guess, grandfathered into it. I don't know if there's a magnet test involved. If there was, I'm not sure how I made it through that part, but got to go to Byrd.
So did you take a bus from Bethany to Byrd?
No, we drove. Okay. My brother was old enough to drive, and then I think his senior year he was at Caddo Career Center. So I had another friend that lived up the road, a guy I actually worked with. I was out at his office on Tuesday. And so we would drive, my mom would take me to his house, and then we'd get, in his car and go to Byrd, but no, never had to do the hour-long bus ride.
Well, I asked because I have a friend that was in the Byrd Magnet program. Okay. He lived out south of town, and he had to ride the short bus.
Yeah.
It's funny, because he's part of the gifted thing. And we just made fun of him all the time.
It's a long haul from out there, but then you've got the other people you pick up in the exchange at the stadium and all that. And I mean, it would have been an hour and a half long bus ride. So,
crazy. So crazy what they do for the Magnet program.
Yeah. But it was great. I mean, I love Byrd. I love getting to know, new people, different people. I didn't really experience Shreveport much in high school. It was kind of, high school's so fast, and it's not like you're old enough to really go out and explore, do all those things. And so after Byrd, I spent 1 year in town, went to Tech Barksdale, which thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah. That was a lot of fun getting to go on base and do some classes there. And it really, for me, I enjoyed that aspect of learning where it's a smaller group. It's more direct. You're with a lot of Air Force guys. So it's, I mean, you're not in there.
People don't even know there's an extension to Tech Barksdale.
And I think it was phenomenal. In fact, if I would have going back, if I could turn the clock back, I'd have probably tried to stay at Tech Barksdale and not make this move to Ruston, where you really just get washed away in this whole new world. Yeah. And for me, when I got to college, I didn't go in the fraternity life and all that stuff. I went straight into work. I got a driving award, as I like to say, and decided, hey, I'm going to take off school. I'm going to pay for this, do things the right way. And I went to work in the restaurant industry. I went to work at Doghouse, where my brother was the manager.
Doghouse.
Yeah, the good old days.
Really good
right?
ranch.
Yeah.
There's ranch and there's fries, those seasoned fries. Oh, man.
So everything
that's where I got my college 15. Yeah. I didn't have a meal plan. I lived off campus.
Yeah.
It was at the Doghouse.
I didn't have a meal plan either. I had a brother who worked at a restaurant, and then I got in there, and that's where I've come to meet a lot of good friends. My buddy Wesley, we were just talking about Wesley Lazarus. That's where I got to know him. We worked Tuesday nights at Doghouse, but I did about 3 months at Doghouse, and my brother was the manager, and my brother's 2.5 years older than me. We're best of friends, but even best of friends want to fight each other sometimes. So I had an opportunity to go work at Sundown with another friend.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, all right, let's go. And so I went to Sundown. I started working there. So it was better for me. Like, my brother was over there. He was doing his thing. I got to do my thing. We were always very closely associated. We still hung out every night. We had the party house. We had the shop in the back where everybody come over, hang out, play beer pong, do all the partying and stuff. But I got to work where I worked. He got to work where he worked. Yeah. Eventually, in our house, I was the kitchen manager at Sundown. My brother was the kitchen manager at Doghouse. Alan Evans was the kitchen manager at Ponchatoula's.
Oh, yeah.
And so it'd be like Wednesday nights, like party night. It's like, hey, what are you bringing
Leftovers.
It's like, I got fried green beans and, fried fish from Sundown. My brother's bringing paw claws and whatever from Doghouse, and Alan's bringing leftover crawfish or something. And so we just end up at the house partying.
When we were at Tech, it was still a dry parish or town, right? So we didn't have any of the chain stuff. Mm-hmm. So those are the places we had to eat. Yeah. Ponchatoula's. There's a place, the Cajun Cafe. It's probably not there anymore, but it was out on the highway going out of town. Yeah. There's a good Mexican place. I can't remember the name of that one.
Yeah. Now there's about 30 of those good Mexican
burritos. Right? It was Old Mexico was the one that we said about Walmart.
Yeah.
So,
but I love Ruston. I mean, it was a small town, great town. You got to know everybody. Sundown, kind of the local watering hole. You go in, it's all the old regulars. They get there at 4:30 to watch Jeopardy. Bruce Van Zandt, who recently passed away. In fact, they're going to honor Bruce October 4th at Sundown. But Bruce was owner of Sundown when I got there, and he was kind of the guy that started it and moved it to where it was down on the I can't think of that name, Railroad Park or whatever the road was there. But Bruce was just old surly, he was an old Marine, and then he'd come into owning this restaurant. And the stories that you heard about Bruce from back in the day when he was involved with all these other things, drugs and whatnot, he was a high level guy. I mean, he's kind of crazy, but they had folks.
He was like the mascot, right?
Yeah, for sure. But they had folks like Stevie Ray Vaughan played at Sundown a long time ago. Of course, Monty Russell, the legend, just brought people in all the time. And so I was there in this time where everything kind of calmed down a little bit, it seemed like, but the bar still had all these whelps on it. And that was from where people would get too drunk or they'd fall asleep, whatever. And Bruce would pull his hammer out and just whack the bar. And so you have all these little divots all over the bar. That was kind of what, it was this culture around there where it's like, hey, we don't take shit from anybody. We're, this is our place and we're going to make it right. And the regulars made it right, made sure you were happy. And I'll say as much as Bruce was just this mean, surly guy, if you were like, hey, I'm taking a weekend off, I'm going camping in, Little Rock, whatever. He's like, here's $100 bill, have a good time. So that to me, it taught me a lot about culture and running a business. If you just treat people the right way, you might get into some tiffs every now and again, but if you, at the end of the day, you treat them right, you give them opportunity to kind of grow and do things and listen to them, then you can build some loyalty with it. Mm-hmm. And so I spent about 4 or 5 years at Sundown. And at one point I decided, I was like, man, I'm dropping out of school. I'm just going to work in the restaurant world. And so I would do like 50, 60 hours a week working between the kitchen and the bar at Sundown. And then my break was to go work at Doghouse 1 or 2 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And the Doghouse nights were more just like, hey, we're going to go hang out with our buddies. Mm-hmm. Specifically Tuesday night, myself, Wesley Lazarus, and a guy named Aaron Turner, we worked on Tuesday nights. And I would always be the last one in. And so we closed, first in, first out, second in, second out, third in, third out. And I would always convince those guys to just stick around and close the whole thing with me. And that would turn into kind of just this hanging out, bullshitting in the back, drinking.
Yeah, we used to do that when we worked at Putt Putt, when our friend would get off. When our friend would get off, we'd be like, hey, just stay. Just help me close. Yeah. Let's hang out.
Help me do that. I can remember.
We go put the go-karts up.
One specific time, my brother texted me and he's like, hey, I need some help today. If you're off, we've got to make like 2,000 quesadillas for the basketball team. They're doing some sort of, it was like when they built one of the new facilities and they're doing this big party, tailgate party type thing. And so he's like, come in, help us make these quesadillas. And I'm like, okay, easy enough. He's like, I'm not going to pay you. I just want to be clear. Like, we'll get you some beer and you can eat while you're doing it, And I've probably never been as drunk as my life as I am then, scooping cheese onto tortillas. And we were making quesadillas in the oven on the flat top. I mean, we had them going everywhere just trying to get these things out. But that, for me, I fell in love with that restaurant world and that camaraderie. And that is kind of ultimately what led me back to Shreveport at a certain point.
So when I met you, you were managing Great Raft.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was, you were there for a while.
Yeah, so I'd fallen in love with the restaurant industry and had the opportunity. Andrew and Lindsay at Great Raft had opened their brewery, and they were about a year in, and I guess they realized that tasting room had become a machine that they didn't really want to manage anymore. And so they put out, they were hiring for a kind of a bar manager type position. And I said, all right, I'll take my shot at it. I wanted to come back home. At the time I was engaged. And I said, yeah, I want to come back home. And so I thought it was a great move for the relationship and all that. And it turned out not to be, which was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, was that relationship not working out. So I moved back home, broke that relationship off, and just sunk my teeth fully into Great Raft. And I said, I have this opportunity. This seems like a good company that's going to be growing. Let me go in here and just do everything I can. And so while they hired me to be the tasting room manager and run this bar that's open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was in there on Monday cleaning kegs, Tuesday trying to help the Keenan line run smoother. Wednesday, I'd go out and do something in the market, whatever. And so I just wanted to do everything that I could. I wanted to sing my way into work while I'm kind of getting through this breakup and all this other stuff. And so I spent about only 9 months single, living the bachelor life. And the next thing I know, my wife, Danielle, my wife now, she comes in one night and her sister's married to a good friend of mine. And so my buddy Randall calls me and he says, hey, I'm bringing my sister-in-law up there tonight. She thinks you're cute. You got to go after her, And I'm like, all right, whatever. I've never been one with the ladies. I'm always more just kind of a partier, easier goer. But so I got to meet Danielle at Great Raft. We ended up hooking up and just kind of fell in love with each other. I moved in with her. Funny enough, like 10 days later, I'm like, hey, I'm living with my parents. I'd rather come over and hang out with you. And so I just moved in. We're still together, going strong. We got 2 beautiful girls, Sloan and Charlotte, 3 and 4 years old, and they're the joy of our lives. But with Danielle, things they worked out. She understood, what I was in for, what I was trying to do. She would go with me to the beer event. She would come to tasting. She'd show up at the tasting room, come to all the big events up there. And it was great. I loved Great Raft, still love Great Raft. Now I'm 9 months, no alcohol, just trying to give my body a little reset, which started as a 30-day thing that turned it into 60 days, that turned into 90 days. And I just started having all this mental clarity and started feeling physically just way better. Yeah. So now I'm 9 months, no alcohol, but I still love Great Raft. I still love what they stand for as a craft brewery. Yeah. I still think, even though the craft beer world's kind of changed a lot from COVID and everything else, that there's still so much passion and there's still so much reason behind what they do. But what Great Raft really gave me was the opportunity to grow as a person and see what traits I had to offer back out into the community. Yeah.
When I had met you, you were still there, but you were kind of, first of all, I don't even remember how we met, but I do remember us having a long conversation at Key, Mexico. You lived around the corner of Key, Mexico.
Right on Greenway.
Yeah. And we were talking and you were like, I'm there, but I want to do something else. So you didn't really know what you wanted to do. Yeah. I think you were just kind of done with the restaurant.
I think COVID for me changed a lot of my job. It went from being a lot less about people to being more about spreadsheets and PowerPoints and logistics. And I'd kind of become, over the years I was there, I'd kind of gone from tasting room manager to tasting room / sales manager to sales manager to kind of just touching a little bit of everything. But COVID hits and you go from shaking hands, kissing babies to, Walmart's PowerPoint and Kroger's Excel thing and Whole Foods meetings and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, if you put me down in front of a computer and you say, hey, do this PowerPoint, do this Excel sheet, I'm scared. I don't want to do this.
Well, I remember that now that we're talking, I remember you being like, yeah, we're like about to roll out in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That was like
Nashville.
the big thing, like your ninth state or something.
Yeah.
You were part of doing all that.
Yeah. And so we were going into this whole new state, and we're doing all these bigger things. Also in late 2020, October 31st, 2020, I lost my dad. He had a stroke October 24th, passed October 31st. My dad was a heavy drinker. They lived a different life. He was one of the last of the draftees, and his brother was in the war and all this stuff. And they just lived, our parents lived a way harder life, a way different life. Maybe not harder, but definitely different. I mean, Dad probably picked up a bottle of bourbon at 12 years old and didn't put it down until a few years before he passed away, And so along with that, 30 days after Dad passes, Sloan is born, my first child. And so life had just
perspective changes, right?
Punched me in the mouth. Yeah. And so not only did the job change, but just life in general had changed. And I really started seeing, I didn't feel like Great Raft was a career move at that point. Whether it's going to be around another 100 years or not, I don't know. But for me, it just didn't feel like something that I was going to continue doing and continue loving. And the idea of missing out on something the kids have going on or whatever, to be at a tasting or be at a happy hour, just, it wasn't appealing to me anymore. Also the drinking for me, I just gotten to a point personally where I just wasn't as excited to wake up in the morning after drinking 10, 12 commotions, you know? So,
well, one thing I've seen a shift in you, and we can get into kind of what your endeavors are now, but I think one thing I noticed with you early on in our conversations, you're a connector, right? Yeah. You kind of just knew people, and part of that is just coming through Great Raft and your personality. Yeah. But then I've seen this uptick of being involved in the community and participating in all these different companies and knowing people, to really kind of almost taking this informal ambassador role of Shreveport. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. That's, so it's kind of, my dad for me was this guy that my dad knew everybody. If you needed new tires, you called this guy. If you needed a water heater, you called this guy. Dad had a guy for everything, I'd always say, right?
Yeah,
and so
love it.
I started seeing those relationships and how he ran his things. And my mom as well. Mom drove a school bus up until my brother and my sister were out of the house, and then she went to work for Home Depot, and she was there for 20 years until she retired a year and a half ago. But Mom was a connector of people too. Mom just knew how to talk to people, typical like, hey, you want to wait in the car? I'm going to run in the grocery store. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Well, 2 hours later, I'm calling 911 wondering where Mom is, But yeah, for me, I someone at some
those
point.
Those are the days when you leave your kids in the car.
Yeah, back in the day. Here's the Game Boy.
Give you a little
roll the window down. Yeah, roll the window down just this far where you can not die in here because it's so hot. I'll be back, but you better not leave this car, But yeah, at some point along the road, somebody, and I don't know who it was or if it was just a multitude of people that were like, hey, man, you're really good at connecting people. You're really good at building relationships among all different walks of life. And that's a talent. And you need to understand that and you need to utilize that. And so when I had this opportunity in 2022 to leave Great Raft and start something new, I said, hey, man, I'll do this. My current partner now is Daniel Sand. He's a CPA. We actually worked at Sundown together. He was my manager at Sundown. He left. I took over the role as manager. And so Daniel comes to me. He's like, man, I'm a CPA. I kind of started my business during COVID, had to shut it down essentially because it was hard to go out and get clientele during COVID. But I've got some legs on this thing. I got some things I want to do, but I really just need somebody that can talk to people and develop people and not only build relationships with clients, but build staff and help me build a culture at this business. And so I said, hell, let's give it a go. At the time my wife was working for Intuit, who owned QuickBooks. She's an accountant. My mother-in-law was an accountant. All I knew about the accounting industry was that they worked really hard, but they had opportunity to make good money. Yeah. And so November 1st, 2022 was when I fully left Great Raft. Now that summer, I kind of, they termed this, or they had this term during COVID called quiet quitting. And I guess it's still relevant, but I know it was a lot more relevant back then is when you already had one foot out the door and you're going to do something else and you're pretty much like, hey, I'm out of here. But let me know how long you need. And so I spent my time at Great Raft, did all the things there. But November 1st, 2022, I fully left and we started Single Source Business Solutions. And so we'll turn 3 years old, this November. And for me, my role, like I told Daniel, hey, I don't know anything about accounting. I don't want to be behind a computer. I don't want to do invoicing. I don't want to do logistical things. I want to talk to people. I want to build relationships. And he said, that's exactly what I want. And I said, well, we'll be great partners. Let's figure this out together.
I'll do the numbers. I'll do the spreadsheets. You be out
He'll
there.
do the spreadsheets. He'll do the tax work.
So we were talking a couple weeks ago about scheduling you on here, and we started to almost go down the business conversation. I said, hey, let's wait until after the podcast so we have something to talk about. So I really don't know what you're doing. I do know a little bit, but I would imagine so right now, your clientele, you're really targeting small businesses that can't really afford an internal and in-house person to do the books. And let's be honest, I mean, I know for years, I don't know how I've gotten to where I've gotten, because for the first, 7 or 8 years of my of my business entrepreneurial career, I didn't have any records, right? I mean, I just looked at the bank account balance.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know cash flow. I did not know. I didn't know my ROI. I didn't know anything. I didn't understand, I would write a check and they might not deposit for 6 months. I wasn't keeping track of that. You know what I'm saying? I was just looking out there. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I was at. So I needed someone like you. I didn't know that until I did hire someone and started getting my numbers together. Now I that's what I live and die with, my weekly spreadsheet update. Yeah. I get daily updates too. It's like I have to have those numbers.
Yeah. Well, as much as I'm not a sit down and do the numbers guy, I'm very much a use the numbers and I see the power in the numbers. In fact, a lot of them, we were at Great Raft. So I started Great Raft in 2015, probably around 2018. We started using some software to track really where everything was being sold and who was buying this and the frequency of it all. And that's data we should have been able to get through to the distributors. But the way that Louisiana works, it's a 3-tier system. So you can produce, then you have to sell it to a wholesaler who sells it to a retail account, whether that be a bar, a restaurant, or a grocery store, whatever. 99, by the time I left, 97% of the beer sold in North Louisiana was not craft beer. It was Anheuser-Busch, it was Bud Light, Budweiser, Coors Light, Miller Lite, all that stuff. So I won't say we didn't get the respect of the distributors, but we were kind of on the back burner. So eventually we made this investment into some software where we could really see everything. And it was so powerful to me to really look at who's buying our stuff and how often they're buying it and what they're buying, and to learn, I'm spending, it's the 80-20 rule, right? You're spending 20% of your time on 80% of the stuff and then 80% of your time on these 5 or 6 people. Well, for me, I really looked in and I said, man, these top 10 accounts are the ones I need to be checking in, making sure they're happy, getting things going. And then here's the opportunity is these next 25%. And then these other guys, let's make sure they get it. But whatever. But at the end of the day, I started learning more about numbers. I started learning more about the power of data. And for us at Single Source, that's the ultimate goal. One, we do tax work, which right now feels overwhelming because we're at we're around this deadline time with 9/15 and 10/15 coming up, unless there's a hurricane that pushes it like last year to February 3rd, which would be great.
Are you hoping, crossing your fingers for a natural disaster?
I don't want a natural disaster, but my buddies in the tree business and the hail damage business would be happy with one right now.
That's funny.
So tax work is a big part of it. We do full service bookkeeping and accounting. Small businesses at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of power in outsourcing. It's hard right now. It's probably harder than it's been in a long time to hire people, which sounds crazy, but we're in this weird economic, political, whatever you want to call it, time where people don't really want to leave. They don't want to, and if they do leave, they want this great opportunity. Everybody wants to make more than they're making. They want these extreme benefits. They want all this stuff. And so as a small business owner, to hire a bookkeeper and accountant full time is nearly impossible. Yeah. And so we outsource, are the outsource, right? So we have a staff right now of 17 folks, which is mind blowing to me because we went from 5 when we started to now 17. And it's almost like I have to remind myself 3 years is not a long time in the business world. Yeah. As long as it feels, as many nights of sleep as I've lost, I'm like, man, 3 years is crazy. But at the same time in the business world, 3 years is nothing. And so to go from 5 employees and maybe 70 clients to 15 employees and around 300 clients, I'm like, okay, let's pat ourselves on the back and slow down and think about how good we're doing. Yeah. So my ultimate goal is to produce financials and produce information for people within 15 days of the close of the month and get them real accurate information. Now, at the same time, we can produce things faster. Some people don't need them. I had a guy call me earlier this week and say, hey man, like I appreciate the financials, but don't waste your time on them. I'm like, well, it's not so much.
I'm not looking at those.
Yeah, I'm not looking at those. and his business, he doesn't, I understand where he's coming from.
Sure,
it's a single man show. He knows exactly what's going on. Yeah. But for us to do our job the way that we want to do it and to stay on top of things, we're going to produce those financials, whether you're going to read them or not. Yeah. And so when it's like, hey, can I save $50 a month? Don't do those financials. It's like, no, not really. Maybe 2 years ago you could have got me, but now if I wait 4 months to do the financials, I just got to catch them up for 4 months. So the price is what the price is. And so I love small businesses. Really the target market for me moving forward is a good balance of small businesses and then single member S corps. So you've got a lot of physicians of the world, insurance folks, realtors, things like that. Specifically the physicians these days, they're going out, they can go work in an emergency room for a weekend and make an extra $15,000. Who wouldn't do that? And that's 1099 income. And then they've got some opportunity to offset tax and invest in retirement and do things like that. Mm-hmm. And so, but the idea behind single source was not just to do the financial side or the tax side, was also to build our book and become kind of a full service. If you want a wealth advisor, we want to bring that in-house. If you want to invest in real estate, we invest in real estate. We understand it. We understand the implications, the tax, all that behind it. We want to help you invest in it. So Daniel went out and got his real estate license. So not only can we help you understand how to invest in it, but when you find the properties you want to invest in, or if you want us looking for them, we'll go do that for you too. Eventually in 5-10 years, I want to have legal in-house to where I don't have to go, and no offense to lawyers if you're listening, but I don't want to have to go and wait on a lawyer for 3 weeks to sign a piece of paper and give me an answer. I want to have that ready to go in-house. So that's really what I'm working toward now over the next 3 to 5 years, is balancing out the clients. I still want to go out and do business with construction companies and oil and gas companies and truck drivers and all that. But I want to have a good balance of these kind of easier single member S corps that we can pump in and out, but also help them with 900 other things, right?
So how involved are you getting? Say I have there's a small business, there might be 3 or 4 employees, an assistant that's answering the phone and some technicians or whatever. Like, are you just saying, hey, set me up in your bank account and your QuickBooks to where we see everything? Or are you getting in and like, hey, let's take your employee and help them with processes to like how, or are you just saying, hey, you just give us access and we do it all?
Yeah. I mean, ideally the way that we've found it works better is to just take it all, which can be hard because some people come to us and they've got someone in house that maybe isn't quite as proficient as what they need to be. And the last thing I want to do is take somebody's job from them. Sure. I don't want to say, hey, fire Vicky because she's not good at doing her job, but it's really hard for us to maintain and help train those people. It's much easier for us to come in and take over and put you into our systems. And we can set people up. Like, not only is it setting you in the accounting system, if you've got a multitude of employees that have company credit cards, we use a system called bill.com or bill expense and pay, to where you can set limits on those cards. And it pretty much acts like a credit card, but you can limit down to $5 on their budget. So if you've got a guy that you just hired, but he's going to need to run to Home Depot to grab a gallon of paint, put $100 on his card. And then if he gets there and he texts you and says, Leighton, it's $500, I had to buy this, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. get on your phone, you can type in, add that budget to his card. That way he can swipe that. And then not only that, it's going to ask him to track his receipts and take pictures and all that stuff. Yeah. So we're kind of building some practices in the business. And the hope really is to graduate a business to where they've grown enough to then bring that stuff in house.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is how does that conversation, like, do you just expand your team to grow with a company or does it, at that point, it's kind of like spinning wheels, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Like I'm taking on more headache and not making any more money.
Right. Yeah. You have to decide. And we do a lot of conversation with our staff and internally to decide which clients just aren't a fit for us anymore for whatever reason. You know, it's in the accounting world, you can only do your job if you're provided the information. And I think that's one of the main reason that we want it all, right? Is because then it's relying on us. The ball is in our court. We get to decide how it's bounced around. And if you've got somebody that's in the business that's clogging things up and slowing down the processes, it's not good for us. It's not good for the client, the relationship all around. It's just going to end up being rough. And so we eventually graduate some clients, whether it's because they've gotten so big that they can bring someone in or they just aren't a fit for our business. And that's a hard thing for me as a relationship guy. I go out, I bust my butt to give you my sales pitch, get you in the door, make you happy. And at some point I have to go, oh, you're not a fit anymore, you know, and that wears on me more than anything. And I've really had to learn over the last 3 years, to be the best business owner I can be and to treat my employees the way that I want to treat them and to build the business and do the things I want to do. Those relationships at some point have a lifespan and they do end. And that's, you know, that's how life is at the end of the day. All these relationships we have, they have a lifespan on them and at some point they won't be there anymore. But as a relationship guy, I mean, you lose sleep over it. You want to please everybody all the time. You want to make good money on it. You want them to be happy. You want it all to work and it just doesn't work. That's the nature of business, right? So at that point, you just constantly have to be looking forward to develop new relationships and new businesses, which is really what led me into being out in the community as much as I am. You know, I for one, I think our community is as good as what we put into it. It's not going to get any better if we don't go out and try harder to make it a better place. And so when I was on at Great Raft, I never really had the time between the relationship with my wife and the business and all that stuff. I never had the time to do nonprofit work. Also, we were bringing a lot of that nonprofit work I would have been doing into the brewery and doing fundraisers and all that there. But when I left and we started Single Source, I told Daniel, I said, hey, I want to get on some boards. I want to kind of learn that side of things too. And so I got on the board at the Strand, thanks to my buddy Andrew Crawford, who's in the Andrus building. I was on the board at Shreveport Common, which is the neighborhood kind of district around the Andrus building. And then I got on at Shreveport Green. And then I got on community renewal. And so I got really to understand how the nonprofit world works and the impact that a board member can have. And so now I'm just down to community renewal and Shreveport Green. I kind of bowed out of two of them. Nothing negative. I just, you know, my time is limited and I've learned how more valuable it is. And so I really want to be on boards and associated with things that are moving forward and listening to me and taking my ideas.
What's your involvement with the Shreveport Farmers Market?
Man, I absolutely love the farmers market. I love Logan. Logan and I, he's
been on the podcast.
He used to play at sundown all the time.
Red River Revel coming up.
Yeah. Revel coming up. Couple weeks. I think it starts in 10 days, which is insane. But
and I had no clue that those were associated.
Yeah.
When he was on the podcast and mentioned that we do the Revel and then we're also the Shreveport Farmers, no clue.
Yeah. You know, and then they tie in also with Brew and Cork is a fundraiser for all that as well. And so I got to know the folks from that through Brew because we were so involved in Brew, and then Mudbug Madness as well is very similarly associated. They all kind of intertwine with each other. But man, I love the farmers market. I love what it stands for. I love the idea of someone that has a product or, you know, something they've made or grown or whatever, and their ability to go out and sell it directly to you. I think there's a lot of power in saying, this is me, this is what I do, buy it from me, support me. Right. Yeah. And so I absolutely adore the farmers market. I tried to get there as many Saturdays as I could. A lot of the times I could get there with the kids and I'd be like, oh crap, my hands are are full of things I want to buy, but also full because I got a 3 and 4 year old girls running around that I'm trying to keep up with, but I adore the farmers market. I wish them all the best. I'd love to see it get to a point where it's, maybe not year round, but outside of the summer where they have a facility. If you look at a town like Ruston, they've got almost a year round farmers market, but it's smaller and it's indoors. And so they have that opportunity for the entire year to bring in fresh vegetables and meats and produce and all this stuff. And not just that, but then things that people make, whether it's somebody making makeup or candles like Ben Whalen at Clean Slate. And
it's kind of like a launching pad too for some of these, because we had Rodrigo on and I had no clue. That's how Key Mexico started, selling salsa at the farmer's market.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then too, with Key Mexico, they were at Great Raft. One of my jobs was booking food trucks. And the food truck scene in Shreveport's always kind of been this up and down thing. And then food trucks in general can just be, they're run by people that sometimes they don't show up or they don't show up with enough stuff. But when I would put Rodrigo and them on the schedule, it was like, you got nothing to worry about. I specifically remember one time where I was super hungover one morning and just felt like crap. And I opened the fridge and they had left like a big container of the bistec, the steak meat that they put on the bistec tacos. And I ate probably half of it and it saved my life. So shout out to Rodrigo and Key for that.
It's the small things.
Yeah. But I've probably got, if I really look down the roster, I've probably worked with 15, 20 people who started at the farmer's market in some sort of capacity. Mahaffey Farms was a great friend of Great Raft. They got all the spent grain from us. And of course they're doing their thing. Got to know Conrad Cable a little bit, who's now running, for Senate against Mike Johnson, which is just a crazy story. Ben Whalen with Clean Slate Botanicals is a client of mine. Rodrigo and those guys, Drip Donuts. Right before I left Great Raft, we did this kolache collab with Drip, where they went out and did kolaches made with Southern Made or something like that at the farmer's market. So,
and now they have a brick and mortar too, right?
At the brick and mortar right there on Line Avenue. And they're doing, the donuts, the kolaches, the fried chicken, all that stuff. And then
now we're talking.
Getting to the food. And then Michelle King, Caleb's wife, she's actually got Sprout, which is the little indoor playground right off of Erie and Ockley and that little shopping center over there as well. So entrepreneurial people. I mean, if you want to meet true entrepreneurs, go to the Shreveport Farmers Market, go to the farmers market.
We've had Chris on at the Bossier Farmers Market. And it's a great time over there too.
It is, man. So, and for me, it's such an easy thing to support. And you go out on a Saturday morning and you get out there at 9:00 and it's, the beat of summer, it's 95 degrees already, but you see so many smiling faces. I'm like, mentally, I'm walking through the farmer's market right now and I'm thinking, oh, there's Paige Powell and there's so-and-so and there's Leanne from Cuban and all these folks, and just see smiling faces and people that are really busting their asses to sell and to get out and do things. 'Cause, man, it's not easy to get up at 6 a.m. And, like Ben Whalen, you got to stuff your truck full of tables and candles and you're moving 2,000-3,000 pounds worth of stuff to go out there and hopefully sell enough to make it worth your while.
By the time people show up, you've worked a full day.
You've worked a day. And then by the time people are leaving it at home and cooking whatever they bought, you're still working for another 2 hours to get cleaned up and get out of there and probably go, like Ben, back to your shop to finish the day out for another 7-8 hours. And so I love entrepreneurs. I think people that bet on themselves, they deserve every bit of recognition and every pat on the back from our community and the support. And so the farmers market really gives them that opportunity to do that. And what's funny is they started putting these shirts out. They put one out and I was like, man, I need that. And then they put a kid's one out and I was like, I need that. And they put this one out. I'm like, I need that one. And yesterday I went to the gym. I had a farmer's market shirt on. I put this one on when I got home and I took it off. I said, I'm gonna wear that for the podcast tomorrow. And I've got a third one in my gym bag for this afternoon that I'm going to throw on too.
I took my kids 6 months ago, the first time at the farmer's market, and quickly realized we should have come up with a plan, because they are just like walking up, they have something in their hand before I even know what's going on, and I'm just like throwing cash everywhere. And so last time I was like, all right, everybody gets $25.
Here's your budget.
Here's your budget.
We're gonna learn how this works.
And I think they all came back with something that was like 3D printed, and I'm like, we have a 3D printer at home. Like it's a good thing. You know, that's a big deal. A lot of people, in fact, I was talking to one of the guys at the farmer's market. This is at the Bossier Farmer's Market. He does 3D printing, but he writes the files and leases them out.
Wow.
Or does a thing to other vendors all over the country that use his files to print.
That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and there's some guys here in town locally called Bishop Orthotics. I don't know if you've heard of them, but Bishop takes, it's a guy named Eric Ripito that started, and then Philip Summers is his partner, but they take the LiDAR technology, like you scan your face on your phone to log into your phone, and they'll scan a knee or a elbow or whatever. They started with a knee brace.
Okay.
Eric was a physical therapist, and he saw the need for people. They wouldn't wear knee braces because they were so generic, and they would slide up and down or they would move, but they wouldn't fit form fitting to your knee. Yeah. And so Eric wrote code to take that LiDAR technology and scan your knee and then send it through the algorithm, whatever you want to call it, nerd out with it. And then it spits it out of that 3D printer prints. And it's a completely custom brace. And we're all going to look back in 5 years and you're going to see Bishop Orthotics sold for, $10 million to Don Joy or one of these big brace companies. But they were in the Andrews for a while, which I was really just telling that story to circle back to the Andrews because I wanted to touch on that.
Put them on. Too. We need to have those on. Yeah. That company's local?
Bishop Orthotics.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look them up. They're on Instagram and all that stuff. So they went from doing the knee braces. I know that they had a lot of people ask about a tennis elbow brace. And they're doing that. And then they started doing the drop foot AFO brace for like stroke victims or, folks that had issues with their foot. And so they started doing that. Wow. But it's, they did one of the high schools, and they used to be in the Andrews. And it was funny because they had this little office and you walk in, it's just like 20 of these 3D printers just humming, and they had to have like vents because it was so hot in there and all that stuff. Yeah. But one of the high schools came, they did knee braces for all the offensive and defensive linemen, and they like colored them and all this stuff. And to watch where they went from when we first met them in the Andrews to where they were a year later, and I can't even imagine what all they've done now. I mean, we see them and talk to them, but I don't get to see.
That's pretty cool.
But they would have these 3D printer companies send them the newest and best technology and say, hey, print on this and critique us and tell us what's wrong with it. Yeah. And then they would print all these crazy things. But the braces they pump out, I mean, they're just insane. Then they got to the point where it wasn't just a regular everyday brace. They made a thinner one because women wanted a thinner one. And then they made a post-op one that locked in place at certain angles. And so again, I think they're going to be one of those huge success stories that started out of Shreveport, out of the Andrews.
So cool. So let's talk about the Andrews. So
absolutely.
So I early on, when I first started my companies, really doing sales, I didn't have an office, so I was renting space at Cohab. Mm-hmm. And I remember through that meeting Jim Walsh. I think I was the only person that would consistently show up and actually work at Cohab. Yeah. And but then he started showing up more regularly, and then he would come in, and there would always be people around him. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I need to know this guy, right? Yeah. And I remember at the time it was just me and an assistant selling houses. I was independent, and I kind of had some opportunities to take some big steps. And Jim, just such a great guy, and really a connector, a giver.
Just an absolute titan of a person. So I did a lot of reflecting on Jim this last week. His birthday was September 13th. He would have been 62. We lost Jim October 6th, 2023, and just an ultimate shock to us. But I always knew Jim as this guy. So when I worked for Great Raft, Jim was an investor at Red River. Mm-hmm. As much as there should have been any bad blood in craft beer, you're in a town and there's two breweries and you're not the one that I work for. And so I always thought Jim was kind of this, he went and started this thing, whatever. I really didn't get to know him, and that was unfortunate for me, but it's just a God thing, timing, right? And so when we moved, Single Source started in Cohab. That's where Daniel had his office. So I started November 1st. Right around Thanksgiving, the heat goes out in that building. At the time, that Cohab building that they were in was owned by the city, and everybody knows how things move within the city, especially the city of Shreveport. It took a little bit of time, and so we kind of saw the writing on the wall that maybe we ought to try to get out of this building. And so we went up and we met Jim at the Andrews, and we walked in, and he goes, hey, I've got this giant room. It's, I had such and such plan for this, and then it didn't work out. So now I need somebody in here. I need somebody to breathe some life into it. Shoot, let's go, man. I'm like, it's this giant room. It's where Cohab is now. It's probably a 2,000, 2,200 square foot room. And I'm like, Jim, we don't need all this space. He's like, just pay me what you can. We'll figure the rest out from here.
Yeah.
And so that was Jim, though. And like you said, Jim was a connector of people. Jim was Jim's office now. I actually office in Jim's office myself, my partner. We've squeezed 5 people into Jim's office, which he'd probably be like, what the hell are y'all doing? This is a cool space and you're clogging it up. But
he was proud of those walls. He's like, don't cover the walls. Don't cover the walls.
Walls are phenomenal. But he always called it his fishbowl because it's got these 2 kind of glass walls on it. And so when you'd walk by Jim's office, you could tell what Jim was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And 99% of the time, Jim, being who he is, would hit you with that come on in wave, and you'd go in there and it would just be a 5-minute conversation that would leave you with this lasting impact and really just change your perspective on things. And Jim, for those of you that don't know about Jim Walsh, Jim started his IT business in Madison Park, right where Key Mexico's is, in a little bitty office. In the first year, they did like $27,000 in revenue, and they were just jacked, super excited about it. Well, Jim, through his career of this IT business, ended up selling his business, making a good bit of money. But along the way, he had been so impactful, sat on the board at Cohab, helped get Cohab founded and started. I mean, sat on just probably 15, 20, 25 boards over the years. But eventually, when Jim sold his business, he wanted to invest in downtown. He wanted to invest in opportunity zone for some tax credits and tax reasons. And so that's where the Andrus came along. And so the Andrus building was built in 1920. I always get this backwards. It's 1929. It was originally Howard Motor Company. And then 1931, they changed it to Andrus Ford. And right across the street on Crockett, they had Andrus Used Car. And the next to that was the Salvation Army building, which is still existing today. And then the Strand, of course, built in 1925. And then you've got Benazon Temple built in 1918. You've got Scottish Rite built in 1919, whatever it is. The Central Fire Station, which is Shrag now, built around that same period. And so when you look back at some of the pictures, like, man, this was a happening spot in the 1920s. And now we've got the Shreveport Common District, and I'm as much of a cheerleader on downtown Shreveport as anybody. I won't be shameful about that. I think downtown is on this cusp of just something great. And whether it's 50 Cent or Bob Thames or Leighton Allen or Josh, whoever it is, downtown Shreveport's about to have some things happening, and people are going to go, oh, crap, I wish I would have been here 2 years ago, right? But at the same time, and you look around downtown now, you got about 1,000 residents in downtown Shreveport, and you've got about 5,000 people that come and work in downtown every day. When the state building's finished, you're going to have a lot more. When 50 Cent does whatever 50 Cent does, you're going to have a lot more. When they do this redesign and this new tax system in the Red River District, you're going to see it expand and do all these things. And so I'm really a huge proponent of downtown Shreveport, but with the Andrus, we've got upstairs, we've got about 15 different businesses that are represented up there. You've got Cohab, which is a business incubator. You've got Luke Lee, who does Fusiform, who's making things for movie sets all over.
Have Luke on. Yeah, Luke's
you need to have Luke on.
He started his company at Cohab when I was there
as well. Yeah. You've got Andrew Crawford, who owns Rhino, Jacqueline's Cuban, his web design business as well. Coach Everardo, Action Coach. If you've never met him, if you just need a boost, somebody to push you, I fully believe in coaching. I think that we can always be better. And for us, we meet once a week as a team with Coach Everardo. And some people say, man, do you think that's really, is that worth your investment? And I'm like, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
There may be 1 or 2 meetings where I'm like, what are we doing? But then there's one meeting where I'm like, holy crap, this guy changed our trajectory. And he did. We started coaching about 16, 18 months ago. And at the time, our business was around $300,000-$400,000 in revenue. And over a year now, we're pushing to do $1.2 million this year. Yeah. Just an incredible amount of growth. And there's no way on this earth that I could have done that without listening to Coach and having somebody really push me. My thought with business is for a long time was, I can't do this until I reach this mark. I can't hire 2 more bookkeepers until I get these 2 clients. I can't bring in a tax expert until we've got this much tax revenue. Coach is like, hey, flip it backwards. Yep. Sometimes you just got to bet on yourself. You got to bet that you're going to be able to bring the business in. And as a salesperson, in my side of it, sales and marketing, I got to be confident we can deliver the work to go out and sell it. Yeah. When I was with Great Raft, I knew we had a hell of a product. I knew we had the best beer in North Louisiana, probably some of the best beer in the country at that point. It was easy to go out and sell. It was a good price, great product. We're going to stand behind it. That's how I want to feel with my business. I want to know that when we sit down and we meet, my team is going to bust their ass and see the writing on the wall and know that we can do the work that I've went out and sold and delivered.
Yeah, and I agree. And what you just said is great, because that's kind of a philosophy I adopted, is whatever my next goal is, or where I'm at now and what I'm growing into, I actually want to structure my staffing and operations for that next phase.
Yeah.
And then grow into it.
Right. Which is so hard.
Because if not, right, then you'll have upset clients. You're going to, your current customer employees are going to get burned out and overworked and 100%. All those things. And so,
but that's where it comes along too with, we talk about the numbers and you talk about the power that you use them and you look at them daily and you know what's going on. If you're not able to look and project and really know what you got to do, forecasting is massive. So you can run a successful business. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people that do it for decades with just looking at the bank account. But if you want to grow wealth and you want to impact community and you want to do bigger things, which is what I think our generation wants to do, I don't think we're satisfied with being good. I mean, I want to be great. I want people to look at single source and everything that we touch and go, shit, I've got to get on board with that guy because he's really doing it and he's really trying really hard to make it happen. And so I think to be able to do that, you have to know A, where you are, but B, where you can be with the assets you're bringing in, with the resources that you're developing and all those things. So
I think we need to start doing a disclaimer for my mom on podcasts with curse words in it, because I know I'm going to hear from her.
That's all right. I'll give you my mom's number, because I distinctly look back at the time I was doing a tour at Great Raft, and I always joked when I did tours that the 1 o'clock tour was okay, 2 o'clock was really good, and 3 o'clock you were going to hear a lot. And my mom went on a 2 o'clock tour one time. She'd been on 5 tours before, and this particular 2 o'clock one, we must have released something really good because my language was not great. And she goes, I'm going on the 3 o'clock tour and you better clean it up. And I was like, oh man. And so I've got a sailor's mouth. I try to watch it. For sure,
it's all good. We'll do a disclaimer.
Yeah.
We actually have an episode with an E on it.
Do we?
Yeah, from season 1, and there was no cussing. My 12-year-old told me.
Really?
Yeah, he listens to the podcast.
Listen to it?
Yeah. Because I was like, well, look, guys, you can't listen to anything with this E. And he's like, well, your podcast has. Oh no, I think it might have been Jason's son. He listens to us. To Go to Sleep, by the way, Little Hazelwood.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
I want to ask you real quick, because we can go down a million rabbit holes, because it's been so fun listening to you.
Yeah.
But with single source, so where are you with obviously you've got the accounting piece. You got the reporting piece, but how far do you get into the consultation piece for that business?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part I love. I love people coming in and picking my brain and trying to figure out, what can help make their business successful. And I think that Daniel and I are both good at it. Daniel's perspective as a CPA is, I think, different than a lot of CPAs. A lot of CPAs are very smart people. They go into school and they run this route and they become a CPA. Daniel was a little bit backwards, where he was kind of a business person and he went and worked in the restaurant industry. He did some oil and gas stuff as well. But he really worked and developed as a business person, and then decided, you know what, I think I like accounting. I'm going to become a CPA. And so his perspective of things is really knowing how a business operates. He worked not only independently at some smaller restaurants, but he worked for Panda Express and Dairy Queen. As Dairy Queen was doing all these new grill and chills that you see all across North Louisiana, he was very high level in getting those openings. So he knew a lot about, hire 100 people and then get down to 40 or whatever it may be. And then with Panda Express is such an interesting business, because not only do they own the brand, but they own every piece of real estate that they operate as well. So amazing family business that just took things a little bit differently. But I think our perspective, and then mine being just kind of a hard nose in community, work, value on relationships, value on marketing, things like that. I think that the consulting side, we have a different perspective than what a lot of firms have. A lot of firms are going to look at just the numbers and tell you what is and isn't working. Well, I know that there's the numbers and then there's everything behind that curtain that we got to go look at too. So we touch on that consulting side as well. It's probably something that in the next few years we'll be doing a lot more and pushing a lot more. And we did some early on. What I quickly realized is that if we pull focus off of managing the accounting and the tax and all those things and get too in depth with consulting projects, then the business itself suffers. And so before I can jump in and consult on other stuff, I got to make sure that what I'm doing is moving along and chugging along really well. But I love the idea of, somebody picking up the phone and saying, hey, I've got these 90 problems. Which ones can you help us fix? Mm-hmm. And chances are, if it's something in the financial world or the accounting world, we've got really good solutions for you. But even if it's something in marketing, insurance, hiring, whatever, that's where that relationship side comes in. And so I'm more of a, let me help you by sending you to a Layton or sending you to a Josh than I am, let me teach you about insurance or something I don't know about. And I think eventually we'll have those experts hand in hand with us to where we can do all that consulting and do it a lot better. But for now, I'm fully open to sending folks out into the world and giving them access to my network so that they're able to work with the people that I've grown to know and trust and to grow their business that way.
Cool. I like it. Yeah, that's interesting because that's where, in real estate, I called it, so it was always like, well, what's the value I have to my clientele? Mm-hmm. And for you have built a value of relationships and networking, right? And that's what I tell people all the time. I was like, you can go spend money on marketing, but the cheapest value you can build is just the people you know and trust, the endorsement, right? Because you're sending that endorsement two different directions. There's value both ways, right? Yeah. And then you're capitalizing on that by getting what you want from value, which is their business or whatever it is. So it's good stuff. Yeah. Good strategy.
Okay, man. 3 quick questions, lightning round. Okay, you ready? This first one should be really good. Best meal you've had around here lately?
Key Mexico, poblano tacos. Just had 2 of them Tuesday. Flour tortilla, medium.
How many of those have you eaten in your lifetime?
Oh man, I still would love a poblano taco challenge. I think I could probably eat 40 of them in one sitting, but I know because we lived, like you said, we lived on Greenway, right? Yeah, so my usual routine back in the Gap was to walk down to Key Mexico, eat 2-3 poblano tacos, have 2-3 commotions, and then go to Maryland's place, have an order of beignets and 2-3 more commotions, and then stumble home down the Greenway and maybe have another commotion on the front porch watching traffic go by. But it's hard to beat those 2 poblano tacos. And if I'm in the mood, the rice with the avocado and egg on it as
the green rice, Mexican rice.
And I'll say I haven't been yet to the Lucky Palace in live yet, or in Louisiana Downs yet. But the truffle wings from Lucky Palace are pretty top notch for me as well. The hardest part about the truffle wings is I'm a big guy. I like to eat quick, and those things come out blaring hot, and they'll shoot some hot grease all over your mouth. So, truffle wings from Lucky Palace and poblano tacos from Key Mexico.
So we get this little. I bet we could set up a pretty good progressive dinner between the 3 of us. Oh
man,
so.
Yeah. I knew that was going to be a good answer. Okay, you have a magic wand. You can fix anything about Shreveport Bossier. What's that?
Oh man, perception. I mean, look, we've got. The cost of living is amazing in Shreveport Bossier. Traffic wise, even if there is traffic, I can get around it in 3 minutes.
It's not bad. Yeah.
There's zero.
People complain about traffic here, but they don't. Yeah.
We have the amenities. I think there's new things that we need. There's up and coming things that we're going to get, but I would change that perception specifically of the crime. I mean, I know there is crime. I know the statistics say it. I'm not going to be an accountant that's going to deny statistics. That would be wrong. But I think that crime is limited to certain areas. And I think that the perception that we have of our town is that, or we have of this area, is that there's a lot of crime and it's not a great place to live and all these things. And I think if we can continue to, Cedric Glover said it best one time. He said the only way to change that perception is to showcase a persistent reality. And that's why I'm so passionate about showing all the amazing things that we have in our area, because if we don't, then we just give opportunity for that perception to continue to creep in. So I don't think we need a Dave & Buster's. I don't think we need 900 things that these other cities have. I think we have a lot of great assets now. I think we need more people like you guys and like myself showcasing what's positive and what's moving forward. And that's what's been so hard in the recent days with all that's going on in the world in social media is I do think that there's this great positive side to social media, but right now we're in this just downturn of like, I put limits on myself, literally, because I don't want to see all the negativity because the thing about all that stuff is how much of it can we truly control?
Yeah.
Very, 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 very little. I can't control what's going on in Congress. I can't control what's going on in New York City. I can't control what's going on in California. Like, I can control what's going on in my backyard, and I can control what people see and what people think about it by putting positive things out there. And if there's a challenge I would issue to people that are listening to this podcast, it's talk positively about your backyard or get the hell out and move somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of great things that we have. And we need to be focused on those. We need to be pushing those.
Yeah, great answer. And shout out to the Onyx app that I just downloaded, which chokes my social media down to very small portion for the day. You got to look into it because man, here lately it's been like,
Onyx app.
We got to get out. Yeah, Onyx app. It's been great.
I said 30 minutes. I had it in my therapy yesterday. I was talking to it with my therapist, and she was telling me I went in and she showed me how to set limits just on the iPhone. But I'm going to look into that. I wish there was a social media world where you could just. And maybe this is kind of how it originally started years ago, where you could just post and interact on your post and not see the 9 million other things that are just completely out of our control.
Yeah, we had it so great in the very beginning.
It was awesome.
It was perfect. It was
great. And now it's become such a machine and a money maker at the end of the day. If you trace it back around, it all comes down to the almighty dollar, right?
100%. It's creating so many distortions out there.
It is. And diversity. And look, the three of us probably have 3 different opinions on everything in this, or a lot of things, right? That doesn't mean we hate each other.
Correct.
And that's exactly what social media has become. It's like, hey, because Leighton wears black T-shirts, he's an a-hole. See, I'm learning.
Or a Nazi.
Yeah, he's a Nazi. I don't want to deal with this. Like you're taking this minuscule thing and you're turning it into such a bigger issue when the reality is.
I actually rather be around people that I disagree with. That's pretty boring. How do you learn? We all agree.
How do you learn if you're not disagreeing, if you're not having different opinions? How are you going to learn? How are you going to become a different person? If we're so focused on only associating with people like us and people that think like us, and it's going to be a cruel world. And unfortunately, we're seeing it right now. And again, there's the idea that, for me, if you just be positive and showcase what's positive, you can make a bigger impact than the negative.
Sure.
May not make as much money, but you'll be all right at the end of the day.
Or get as much followers.
Yeah.
My newest app is Merlin.
Okay.
Yeah. You open it up and it'll tell you which birds, it'll identify the birds you're hearing.
My wife is obsessed with this app because now that we live out in the country.
Yes. And so then you get there are 5 different types of birds that's hearing, and you can identify them.
It's insane too, because some of them you won't even pick up.
Yeah.
And you'll see the little sound wave move and it'll say, it's a robin that's.
Yeah. I think it does other animals as well, but Merlin.
Merlin app.
I like that.
You going to try that out?
That's peace of mind right there, buddy.
Dude.
Peace of mind. Okay. One last lightning question. What are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about? Man, I've got I'm working on purchasing a new business, and I can't say, how it is in the business world. You can't really say until it's done, right? But I'm working on a new business. I will also say, going into the holiday season, the busyness of the world, I think that, again, there's a lot of cheer coming up. There's a lot of happiness coming up, and I'm excited that hopefully as a community, and I'm not going to say as a country because that's too advantageous, but as a community, I think we get the opportunity to focus on a lot of fun things coming up. You've got Red River Revel, you've got Film Prize, you've got Brew, you've got the Independence Bowl, you've got night markets, you've got parties, you've got Great Raft's anniversary. I mean, there's just so many positive events coming up. And I think that the heat of the summer and everything else got us down. The political world got us down. To be damned with all that. Let's do some partying coming up, football season, all that fun stuff. Like, there's an opportunity to get out and see some smiling faces. And that's what I'm excited about. This time of year, you can't beat the weather in North Louisiana hopefully you can't beat the weather. You never know if October is going to be 100 degrees or the 70 that's advertised. But, you get that first little chill crisp of air that comes through.
Yeah,
that's what
I think Bob would give Nico a run for his money for this Duchess of Fun thing that
for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Let's have a Duchess of Fun competition here.
Yeah, I party with Nico, and I don't know if I can reach the amount of fun. And now Nico in Shreveport Bossier may be a little bit different than Nico in New Braunfels, but
that's funny. Cool. Well, you ready for sponsors?
Let's do it.
Yes. Priority Roofing, locally owned, family ran business specializing in residential commercial roofing. The bailiffs, Hannah and Shay, do a great job with it, really, repairs, replacements. They'll work with insurance. Whatever they need to do. 318-202-2123. We have Plumber for Hire, locally owned plumbing and plumbing company specializing in residential commercial plumbing. No job too small. They like to get to their jobs within 24 hours, and they do really big jobs as well. Digging dirt, boring under roads, they do it all. 318-709-9090. Then we have Clint Davis Counseling, helping people make lasting internal change for external growth and success. They have 3 locations around Shreveport Bossier. 318-562-6903.
Ivy's Building Materials, locally owned, 3 locations, Blanchard, Houghton, and Mansfield since 1969. We've been a locally owned home center. Need to fix a toilet. You need to paint a wall. You need to build a house. You need to remodel a house. Mm-hmm. You need to put shingles on a house. Mm-hmm. Give us a call. Look us up at ivylumber.com. Again, local business here in this community. And just kind of like what Bob was saying, we're here, we're invested in it, and we're trying to build it, and we're trying to make it into something great. And I love what you said about, let's just focus on the good things. Let's focus on the positive things. Yeah, there's bad things out there, for sure. Mm-hmm. But, we're here. No one's coming to save us.
Yep.
We got to keep going.
It's really easy to get into the negative rhetoric, right? And we've seen some of that. Some of the guys that are saying, "Hey, we want to bring positivity," and they get some idiot saying something, and now they're distracted and spending the next 3 weeks debating whatever it is, right? And it's like, well, hey, now we've taken the focus off of this, right?
Yeah. That's right. So, just sucks the oxygen out.
Yeah. You want to give your elevator pitch for Single Source?
Single Source Business Solutions. Look, running a business is hard. There's no doubt about it. Whether you're Ivy's or a plumber or a painter or selling cars, whatever it may be, numbers can be intimidating. Entrepreneurship is a hell of a roller coaster. It's an up and down thing. I see these memes all the time where it's like, you got $28,000 in the bank, and then you get a bill for $27,999 that afternoon. And that's truly entrepreneurship. If you're someone that is an entrepreneur running a business in Shreveport Bossier, and you want someone that truly cares about your business and cares about the impact your business has on the community, pick up the phone and call us. There's not going to be a charge for you to have a conversation with me to see if Single Source is a fit for you, or to see if someone in my network could help you grow your business and grow our community a little bit stronger. Outside of that, the only plug I have to say is mental health is real. For me, over the last 5 years, I've grown an immense amount as an adult, as a person. Folks like Clint Davis Counseling and Unbroken Counseling of this world, they're there for a reason. As a big surly guy with tattoos and a beard, sometimes people look at me and they think, "Oh man, this guy's he's tough. He's got it all figured out." I'm a fragile little baby on the inside, man. I need help just as much as a mom going through something, or a girl who's been through something, whatever. Entrepreneurs, go out, seek something that helps you, whether that's something you find on your own, working out, volunteering in the community, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, don't be afraid to go out and seek some help, seek some counseling for yourself, for your business, for your employees. Really get involved with making your mind better and making your mind work better. It's been a game changer for me to be in therapy, be in counseling, and do these things, and then bring that into my workplace so that my staff is growing as well in their mental capacity. So don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to digest and let folks come in and help you be a better person. At the end of the day, this world we live in, like you were just saying, is a hard world. It's not going to get any easier. There's not going to be this savior that comes in and just makes it perfect for everybody. So work on yourself and work on others when you have that opportunity to feed into others and showcase what you've learned. Take those lessons that you've learned and push them into others so that they can be better for our community.
Cool. Love it.
Well
Bob
said.
Thames, not Thames.
Thames.
Spelled Thames, pronounced Thames.
Tim's like the river. That's how I say
There it is.
Right.
Love it.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys
so much, man.
Yep.